Previously, we explored the meteoric rise of Death Row Records, a label that reshaped hip-hop and became a cultural powerhouse. In this episode, we delve into the dominance and subsequent decline of the iconic label. At the peak of its power, Death Row Records was a juggernaut in the music industry. Its artists topped the charts, sold millions of albums, and redefined hip-hop.
Death Row was on top of the world. They had the best producers, the hottest artists, and a sound that was unmatched. They were untouchable.
Behind every successful hit was a rigorous process of creativity and collaboration. The making of iconic albums like Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style and Tupac's All Eyes on Me showcased the brilliance and hard work that defined Death Row.
Recording Doggy Style was a crazy experience. Dre pushed me to my limits, but it was all about creating something timeless. We knew we had to bring our A-game.
Dr. Dre's production was the backbone of many Death Row hits. His meticulous attention to detail and innovative use of sampling created a distinctive sound that set the label apart.
Dre was a perfectionist. He'd spend hours tweaking a beat until it was just right. His vision and drive were unmatched, and it showed in the final product.
The arrival of Tupac Shakur in 1995 marked a significant turning point for Death Row Records. His presence and prolific output brought the label to new heights.
Tupac's signing was a masterstroke. He was already a star, but under Death Row he reached a whole new level. His music, his message, his charisma. It was a perfect fit.
Tupac's first album with Death Row, All Eyes on Me, was a double album that featured a blend of introspective tracks and hard-hitting anthems. It was a commercial and critical triumph.
Tupac was a machine. He would come into the studio with lyrics already written, ready to record. His work ethic was inspiring and pushed everyone around him to elevate their game.
However, success came with a dark side. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry, fueled by media sensationalism and personal vendettas, cast a long shadow over the hip-hop community.
The rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast was a ticking time bomb. It started as a musical competition, but quickly escalated into something much more dangerous.
Tupac and the Notorious Big became the faces of this feud. What began as a clash of styles and personalities turned into a bitter and often violent conflict.
The media played a huge role in fanning the flames. They sensationalized every diss track, every altercation, turning it into a spectacle that captivated and horrified the public.
Within Death Row, tensions were rising. Suge Knight's aggressive management style and the label's growing legal troubles began to take their toll.
Suge Knight's approach to business was unconventional, to say the least. His methods often bordered on the criminal, and it created a lot of legal headaches for the label.
Suge Knight's run-ins with the law were numerous and well-documented. From accusations of assault and intimidation to financial mismanagement, the controversies were endless.
The constant legal battles were draining. It wasn't just about the money, it was the distraction, the negative press, and the toll it took on everyone involved.
In September 1996, tragedy struck. Tupac Shakur was shot in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas and died 6 days later. His death sent shockwaves through the music world and marked the beginning of the end for Death Row Records.
The night Tupac was shot was surreal. It was a devastating blow to everyone at Death Row and the hip-hop community at large.
Tupac's death was a monumental loss. It not only deprived the world of an iconic artist, but also destabilized Death Row Records. The label's decline had begun.
Tupac's death was a turning point. Without his presence, Death Row lost a significant part of its identity and influence. It was a blow from which the label would never fully recover.
As if the loss of Tupac wasn't enough, Death Row faced mounting legal and financial troubles. Suge Knight's legal battles and the label's mismanagement exacerbated the decline. Accountant, the financial situation at Death Row was dire. Lawsuits, unpaid royalties, and extravagant spending drained the label's resources. It was a financial nightmare. Suge Knight's legal troubles were a constant source of negative publicity. From charges of assault to accusations of money laundering, his legal issues plagued the label. Lawyer Death Row was constantly in court. The legal fees alone were staggering, not to mention the settlements and judgments. It was unsustainable.
The cascade of legal and financial issues marked the beginning of the end for Death Row Records. The once dominant label found itself struggling to maintain its stature and influence in the industry.
The departure of key artists further accelerated Death Row's decline. Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, two of the label's biggest stars, left to pursue solo ventures, citing creative differences and financial disputes. Dr. Dre, I had to leave. The environment at Death Row had become toxic, and I wanted to create music in a more positive and stable setting. It was a tough decision, but it was necessary. Dr. Dre went on to establish Aftermath Entertainment, which would become a major success in its own right. Snoop Dogg also found continued success as a solo artist, distancing himself from the chaos of Death Row. Critic Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg's departures were huge blows to Death Row. They were the cornerstone of the label's sound and identity. Without them, Death Row lost much of its creative direction. While Death Row was in decline, the hip-hop landscape was evolving. New labels and artists emerged, bringing fresh sounds and perspectives to the genre. Historian the late 90s saw a shift in hip-hop. The East Coast regained prominence with labels like Bad Boy, and the South began to rise with artists bringing their own unique styles. The game was changing. Labels like Bad Boy Records, led by Sean Diddy Combs, capitalized on the changing trends and became the new leaders in hip-hop. The Southern rap scene also gained traction, introducing new sounds and influencing the genre's direction. Rapper The South had something to say. We brought our own flavor to hip-hop, and it resonated with people. It was our time to shine. As Death Row floundered, Suge Knight's troubles continued to mount. His aggressive tactics and criminal activities caught up with him, leading to a series of arrests and eventual imprisonment. Expert Suge Knight's downfall was almost inevitable. His involvement in numerous criminal activities, combined with his aggressive business practices, left him with few allies and many enemies. In 2015, Suge Knight was arrested and charged with murder after a hit-and-run incident. This marked the final chapter in his tumultuous career, as he was sentenced to 28 years in prison. Employee Suge's imprisonment was the nail in the coffin for Death Row. With him gone, the label had no direction and no leadership. It was the end of an era. But despite its tumultuous history and eventual decline, Death Row Records left an indelible mark on the music industry. Its influence can still be felt today, as the artists and music it produced continue to inspire new generations. Historian Death Row's legacy is complicated, but it's undeniable. They redefined hip-hop, pushed boundaries, and created some of the most iconic music of all time. Their impact is still felt today. Death Row Records may have fallen, but its spirit lives on in the music and culture it helped shape. It remains a testament to the power of innovation, talent, and the enduring legacy of hip-hop.